Because I couldn't enjoy myself, I couldn't get hard. Because I couldn't get hard, I couldn't enjoy myself. It was a nasty feedback loop that became a self-fulfilling prophecy. The first 2 times I lost my erection, they were situation dependent. One of them was a lack of attraction, one of them was too much alcohol. But the third time had a very different quality. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Cam Joyner, and I struggled with ED for 7 years before I finally healed myself. Now I can have sex whenever I want, and I get hard literally every day. I've helped a lot of guys heal this problem and get their sex lives back. If you want to become one of those guys, go to my website nopillsnosurgery.com and get on my email list. This is a really fixable problem. Don't let yourself stay stuck. I think you deserve more than that. So on to the story of how I got ED for 7 long years. It started over the course of 3 separate sexual experiences. So I'm going to talk about how each one of these contributed, and I'm going to compare it at the end to what happened after I was healed at a time where I lost my erection. There was a girl I used to flirt with in high school. I hadn't seen her in many years, but we got back in touch and we started texting. It got increasingly sexual, so I invited her out for a drink. I put on a nice collared shirt and my favorite cologne. I went out ready to flirt. But there was a problem. When I saw her, I wasn't nearly as attracted to her as I thought. And this turned out to be a bigger issue than I realized at the time. So we shared a few drinks and flirted even more, and eventually she invited me back to her apartment. We started fooling around and I got hard for a little bit, but I lost my erection. It took years before I really understood everything that went wrong that night. And let me tell you, there was a lot that went wrong. I go into this in great detail in my upcoming course, but for today, just understand the fact that I wasn't that attracted to her was a lot more important than I thought it was. I left embarrassed and confused, and after that night, we never spoke again. I lost my erection that night because I wasn't that attracted to her. But that doesn't mean that you're losing your erection because you aren't attracted to your partner. There's a lot of reasons that this can happen, and I'm going to put them up on the screen right now. The key point that you need to take away from that night is when I left her house, I didn't understand why I lost my erection. In my mind, I should have been able to have sex with her, and it just felt like a failure. The next day, I tested myself to see if I could still get hard, and I'm happy to report my little guy could stand at full attention. I shrugged off the experience as just a one-off, and I went on with my life. Or so I thought. A few weeks later, I was out with a couple of my friends who were just Olympic-level drinkers, and I happened to run into a girl I was crushing on. One thing led to another, and we ended up back at her place. Once again, I lost my erection. And I should have been able to shrug that one off because it's obvious why I lost my erection. I was stupidly drunk. But the combination of the 2 incidents and the confusion over the first one planted a time bomb in my subconscious that was set to explode into a full-blown case of ED. You don't really need the details of the third experience. You already know how it played out. And that's how it played out for the next 7 years. If you really want to understand how my ED was created and how yours was likely created, we need to look at one more important thing. I lost my erection in each of these 3 incidents for 3 separate reasons. With the first girl, I didn't get aroused because I wasn't that attracted to her. With the second girl, I was just drunk. With the third girl, I was scared because I'd lost my erections the last 2 times I'd tried to have sex. Because I didn't understand why I lost my erection the first time, it planted the idea in my mind that something might be wrong. The second time intensified that fear. And after the third time, I was really worried there was a problem. Every sexual experience that I had after that now carried into it the idea that I had a problem. And this idea that I had a problem was actually the biggest obstacle to getting hard. Instead of being in the moment with the wonderful women who were in front of me, now I was just afraid that I was going to lose my erection. Because I couldn't enjoy myself, I couldn't get hard. Because I couldn't get hard, I couldn't enjoy myself. It was a nasty feedback loop that became a self-fulfilling prophecy. The first 2 times I lost my erection, they were situation dependent. One of them was a lack of attraction, one of them was too much alcohol. But the third time had a very different quality. It was now no longer reliant on the situation. The problem was something in my mind that I carried into every situation no matter what was happening. The idea that I had a problem had been internalized. Does this situation sound familiar to you? Because this is what most of you are really dealing with. Now let's look at a situation that happened after my ED had already been healed. My amazing wife and I were running behind because we'd stayed up a bit too late and we hit the snooze button a few too many times. This was a morning where she really couldn't be late, but I still had to make her breakfast and we were running behind. The problem was, both of us were really in the mood, so we tried anyway. But while we were trying, my mind was really on the fact that I still needed to make her breakfast and I knew exactly what time it was. So, in the middle of sex, I lost my erection. So what do you think happened after that? How do you think I felt? Come up with a scenario in your head about what you think happened. Here's what actually happened. I started laughing hysterically. I literally laughed so hard that my sides hurt. Why? Because I knew exactly why it happened. I understood that we were under time pressure, that my mind wasn't totally on sex because I was thinking about breakfast and I was thinking about what time it was. The difference between this experience and the experiences that were happening when I had ED is that I understood why I lost my erection. Because I understood why, I didn't need to worry about it happening in the future. So later that night, we tried again and we had sex successfully. That was the last time I lost an erection, and that was 5 years ago. Every time you lose your erection, there's a cause. When you don't know the cause, you become perpetually worried that there's something wrong. When you clearly understand the cause, you realize it's not that big of a deal. Pay close attention here. Whenever you lose your erection, take some time afterwards to let your emotions settle down. When you have a clear head, try to determine the factors that contributed to you losing your erection. Once you've identified those factors, come up with a plan to change something to improve the situation for next time. Try to make every sexual experience a little bit better than the last one. When you make this a habit, ED will become a thing of the past. So here's a quick recap. You can lose your erection for different reasons. After you lose your erection, let your emotions settle and then reflect on what happened. If you understand why you lost the erection, you can improve the situation. If you don't understand why you lost the erection, it will continue to cause anxiety. Many of you probably don't know why you're losing erections. When I ask guys, the most common answers that I get are venous leak, or my mind, or most honest, I have no fucking idea. The problem with these is they're too vague. When you don't have a clear understanding of a problem, it's really difficult to take action, which is why ED is so challenging. And if you're not taking action towards making this kind of problem better, it's just going to continue to get worse. If you really want results, you need to understand this one thing.